Hey there. Tonight's story isn't about knights or kings. There are no dragons. No banquets. No grand battles. Just the quiet, uncomfortable truth of what it was like to simply exist in medieval times. This isn't the kind of history that makes it into paintings or textbooks. This is the kind where your blanket is made of straw, your bed is the floor, and your alarm clock is a rooster that always lies. If that sounds like something you'd fall asleep to, go ahead and like the video and subscribe, but only if this kind of slow, strange history brings you peace. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I love knowing who's drifting off with me from across the world. So, dim the lights, get comfortable, maybe wrap up in a scratchy old blanket just to set the mood. Because tonight, you're not a warrior or a noble. You're just a peasant. And the day ahead is long, cold, and full of chores. Welcome to your new normal. Let's begin. You wake to a sound that doesn't belong. It claws at your ears before your eyes can even open, an uneven, scratchy cry that scrapes through the morning air. Not a mechanical beep. Not a ringtone. Just the coarse, ancient caw of a rooster whose voice has cracked from too many dawns. It doesn't sing. It complains. And yet, somehow, it convinces your body to rise. You shift beneath the weight of something that barely qualifies as a blanket. It's heavy, scratchy, and damp in the corners, smelling of something halfway between wet sheep and cold ash. The air clings to your skin, the kind of cold that doesn't shock but settles, inch by inch, as if the room itself were sighing through your bones. You blink. There's no ceiling light. No familiar hum of electricity. Just a thatched roof low above your head, bound with old rope and shadow. Bits of straw poke through, stained with years of smoke, age, and rain. One piece hangs low, dangling like a pendulum, swaying slightly in the draft that slips through the wood walls. The first breath you take tastes like earth. Not clean dirt, but lived in dirt. The scent of old sweat, firewood, stale breath, damp stone, and something unplaceable, all settled into the air like it belongs there. Like it's always belonged. You don't remember going to sleep here. You sit up slowly, your spine protesting. The bedding beneath you is nothing but a flattened pile of straw stuffed into a torn sack. It crinkles as you move, shifting with a sound like dry leaves underfoot. A sliver of light presses through the wall, a gap between the wooden planks wide enough to betray the hour but not enough to see the sun. Just a dull grayness. The kind that makes you question if morning has really come at all. You reach out, hoping for warmth, slippers, socks, something soft. Your hand lands on cold dirt. It's uneven, rough, and damp in places where the roof has leaked. Another sound joins the rooster. A cough, low and wheezing, from somewhere nearby. Then a murmur. Then the soft groan of someone turning over in sleep. You're not alone. You count them without meaning to. The breathing. The shifting bodies. 4, maybe 5. All tucked into corners of this one-room dwelling. Everyone wrapped in their own patchwork piles of cloth and hay. There are no beds here, just mounds. Shapes. A family of shadows bundled in whatever they had the night before. You draw the blanket tighter, but it doesn't help. The wool is stiff and scratchy, the kind that bites at your neck and clings to your skin like burrs. It smells of animal fat and old smoke. It's too short to cover your feet. You shift again. Your foot grazes something cold and round. A clay jug. Empty, you think. You hope. There's no window, just a square cut into the wall, covered with a thin scrap of cloth. Light bleeds through it in the gentlest way, like a memory. Outside, you hear nothing but wind and the faint shuffle of chickens in the yard. They walk freely, like they own the world. And maybe they do. You exhale slowly. There's a stiffness in your fingers, as if you've aged overnight. You roll your shoulders, and the joints respond with quiet cracks. There's a heaviness to your body, a slow drag in your limbs that isn't quite fatigue, but it isn't strength either. You reach for your shoes. But they aren't there. You remember, suddenly, that you didn't come here with shoes. That maybe you've never had them at all. Or maybe they were taken. Or maybe you left them behind in a world where mornings came with alarms and running water. A world that feels impossibly distant now. The rooster calls again. You glance at the door, a wooden slab held in place by a crooked beam. No lock. Just a simple latch. The kind that couldn't keep anything out. Or in. You wonder if it's even really closed. You hesitate. Not because you're scared, but because there's nothing out there waiting for you except more of what's in here. Cold air. Damp dirt. Chores that begin before the sky turns gold. A world that doesn't care if you feel rested. A world that never asked if you were ready. Your breath leaves a cloud in the air. A ghost of warmth that vanishes too quickly. And yet, you rise. Your legs resist, but they move. Your toes press into the dirt. It's cold and damp and uneven beneath you. Bits of stone press against your skin. You stand fully, and your knees ache in ways you can't explain. The kind of ache that feels inherited. You glance down at the bed of straw you rose from. It already looks like no one was ever there. The others begin to stir. A child rolls over and lets out a soft whimper. A woman, perhaps their mother, whispers something in a language half swallowed by sleep. Outside, the fog waits. Thick, low, and unmoving. The sky offers no promise of light. Only time. And somewhere in that silence, you realize the truth. You didn't choose to be here. But here you are. The rooster lied. It isn't morning. It's just the start of another long day. You move slowly, half out of habit, half out of caution. The air inside the hut is still as breath, cold as stone. It touches your skin like a wet cloth forgotten by the fire. Only there is no fire. Just the ghost of yesterday's heat, buried somewhere in the ashes. The light through the cloth-covered window hasn't changed. It's still that dull, woolen gray that can't decide whether it belongs to night or day. You can't see the sun. You rarely do. But you don't need it to know that the cold has settled in for the morning like an old dog curled at the foot of every bed of straw in the village. You bend down, picking up the folded piece of fabric you used as a tunic yesterday. It's stiff, crumpled with dried sweat and smoke. You shake it out gently, but it doesn't soften. The sleeves are twisted and damp at the cuffs. You hesitate before slipping it over your head, knowing what it will feel like, the itch of unwashed wool against raw, sleep-wrinkled skin. It drapes over your shoulders like a memory. Not warm. Not comforting. Just familiar. Your breath clouds in front of you, pale and soft, disappearing as soon as it's born. You watch it rise, then vanish. You count each one. Not because you need to, but because it gives you something to hold on to. A rhythm. A reason. The floor beneath your feet is a patchwork of yesterday's footprints, hardened by frost. Each step feels like pressing your soles into a memory of movement, mud dried into ridges, bits of hay scattered like broken paths. There's no such thing as clean in this place. Only less dirty. You crouch near the door where the wall warps inward. That's where the wind gets in. A slow, sighing draft that smells of wet earth and dying leaves. It finds your ankles first, then your knees, then the thin space beneath your collar. You shiver, not dramatically, just the kind of shiver that makes your shoulders tighten and your jaw stiffen. Someone coughs again behind you. A low, crackling sound that rolls across the room like a wheel on uneven ground. Then a sniffle. A creaking joint. A whispered curse. The hut is waking. You look around. A child blinks in the dimness, clutching a limp rag like it might still hold warmth. His face is streaked with sleep and ash. The older woman, The one with the hollow eyes and the red cloth around her hair, sits up slowly, her hands already reaching for the same bundle of clothes she's worn all week. Maybe all winter. No one speaks. They don't need to. Morning has its own language here, and silence is part of it. You turn back to the wall and reach for your outer wrap, a long strip of burlap thickened by dirt and time. You drape it over your shoulders and hug it close. It does little to fight the cold, but it gives your hands something to do. Something to hold. You think of warmth, not as a luxury, but as a distant friend. A flicker in the back of your mind. The kind that shows up for a moment and then slips away without saying goodbye. Outside, the wind stirs again, pushing against the cloth window and making it flutter like a flag of surrender. You can hear chickens scratching at the frost-covered ground, their soft clucks muted by the fog. A distant bleat follows, low and questioning, from a goat that has no concept of time. You move toward the door. You pull the latch loose and open it slowly. The morning greets you with a wave of damp air and an even colder silence. Mist hovers like breath over the mud, thick and unmoving. It clings to everything, the grass, the walls, the sky. You step outside, your feet sinking slightly into the soft crust of frozen earth. It breaks beneath your weight like old bread. You look down. Mud has claimed your ankles. The straw you laid down last week to cover the path is soaked and sunken. You step again, and it squishes. Not enough to stop you, but enough to remind you that the world outside your hut is never quite dry. A rooster pecks the ground nearby, unbothered by its own deception. It doesn't crow this time. Just tilts its head, eyes you, then moves on. You follow the same steps you always do. Past the fence that doesn't close. Around the corner where the wind always bites harder. Toward the water bucket leaning against the barn, hoping that maybe, just maybe, it didn't freeze completely overnight. You wrap your arms tighter around yourself, trying to remember the feeling of warmth. Not a fire, not a bath, but that slow, golden warmth that comes when the air doesn't hurt your lungs. When your fingers don't feel like wood. When the breath you exhale doesn't look like smoke. It's not that kind of morning. It's never that kind of morning here. Your tunic clings now, catching the moisture in the air. Your feet are already numb, but you keep walking. Not because it's brave, or strong, or noble. But because you don't have a choice. Because the day has begun. And the cold, like the mud, like the silence, like the sky, has settled in to stay. The sky doesn't change when you look up. It stays gray, like a smudge across old parchment. But the thatch above you, woven tightly in some places, loosely in others, whispers with every gust of wind. It creaks gently, shifts like an uneasy sleeper, and leaks secrets you were never meant to hear. You're back inside now. The bucket didn't hold what you needed. Just a skin of ice and a hollow echo when you tipped it. You didn't expect more. You rarely do. As you settle onto the edge of the straw pile again, you glance up, and for a moment, you could swear the roof is breathing. It moves when the wind presses down. Not a lot. Just enough to make you pause. You can see tiny openings in the weave, gaps where the sky peeks through, slivers of air that trade warmth for chill. A bit of straw falls beside you. Then another. You imagine what the roof hears. What it holds. The prayers muttered late into the night. The arguments spoken in hushed, sharp tones. The baby's breath. The grandmother's sighs. The rustle of bodies shifting beneath the same blanket of dark, all trying to find comfort on a bed of earth. The roof is made of reeds, hay, sticks, and desperation. Layer upon layer of things once alive, now arranged overhead like a fragile promise. It keeps the rain out, most of it. It keeps the birds from roosting directly over your head, sometimes. But mostly, it just whispers. It tells you what you already know. That this place is old. That it's tired. That it remembers. You reach up and touch one of the low beams. It's cool, smooth from years of fingers brushing past it. Maybe a century of them. The grain of the wood is darkened by smoke, curved like a smile or a scar. You wonder how many winters it has held. How many storms it sighed through. How many times it's almost given up. The hut moans again as another wind rolls through. It's not violent. It's not even loud. Just persistent. Like breath on the back of your neck. You tighten the wrap around your shoulders and listen. To the creak of the roof shifting under pressure. To the drip of water from the eaves. To the small movements of the others waking behind you. No one speaks, but the room is full of sound. Someone turns over in the corner. A cough stutters through the air. A baby fusses briefly before quieting against a warm chest. A bowl is nudged with a foot. Cloth rustles as a woman folds her scarf tighter across her hair. Still, the thatch whispers above you. Sometimes it sounds like laughter. Not loud or full, but the kind of laughter that lingers after people have left. Faint. Forgotten. Sometimes it sounds like rain, even when the sky is dry. And sometimes, in the early hours like this, when you haven't fully risen and the fire hasn't yet been fed, it almost sounds like voices. You don't look up. Not right away. You know better. There are stories about voices in the roof. Old ones. Whispers that come when you're between dreams and morning. Not spirits exactly, but memories that got caught in the straw. Ones that never found their way out. You've heard them since you were small. Words with no source. Breaths that aren't yours. Today it says your name. Not loud. Not urgent. Just there. As if someone said it from the other side of the roof, far above, through the weave of sticks and sky. You don't answer. You just listen. Because here, you don't talk to the wind. You let it talk to you. The others don't notice. Or maybe they do, and they've learned not to say anything. It's better that way. You press your back against the wall, the cold of it seeping through your tunic. The floor is hard beneath you, but you stay seated. There's comfort in stillness. There's warmth in not moving. You look up again. A single thread of straw hangs low above your head, spinning slowly as the draft passes through. You watch it turn. And turn again. The wind shifts. A new gust crawls in beneath the door. The thatch rustles louder this time, like someone adjusting a blanket over your head. You almost close your eyes. Almost. The whispers soften. Now, they sound like nothing. Or everything. Like the hush of trees in a distant forest. Like water trickling through stone. Like breath. Like memory. Like the hush of the earth itself trying not to wake anyone too quickly. And still, you sit there. Quiet. Wrapped in wool. Wrapped in cold. Listening to the roof. Listening to the day begin slowly, like a candle lighting without flame. Because here, the roof does more than cover you. It remembers. And it whispers. You step carefully. There is no carpet beneath your feet, no tile, no smooth polished wood. Only dirt. Hardened and cracked in some places, soft and damp in others. The kind of floor that shifts beneath you, remembers every heel, every toe. The kind that exhales when you walk on it, quietly, slowly, like the breath of the earth itself. It's colder now. The morning mist has crept in beneath the doorframe, curling around your ankles like a curious cat. Each step stirs up a little puff of dust, just enough to catch the light trickling through the cloth-covered window. You notice the way it floats. Not hurried. Not heavy. Just, drifting. You don't wear shoes inside. No one does. There's no point. The soles of your feet have learned the texture of this floor the way a musician learns strings, rough here, slick there, with a sharp edge near the threshold that always makes you flinch when you forget it's there. The center of the room is smoother than the corners. worn down by years of movement, of daily passing. You wonder how many people have stepped where you step now. How many lives press down in the same footprints. Your toes find a patch that's still wet. Cold soaks in immediately, sharp as metal. You shift your weight and move away without thinking. The damp spots are always near the edges. That's where the roof leaks when it rains. That's where the chickens sometimes find their way in. You crouch, run your fingers along the surface. There's a groove near the wall, a channel someone scraped there seasons ago, meant to carry runoff out when the floor floods. It doesn't work well, but it's there. A small attempt at control in a place where control rarely matters. The hut breathes around you. Not just the people, but the structure. The walls creak. The door shifts on its hinges, despite being closed. And the floor sighs beneath your feet as if it remembers being part of a field once. The others in the room begin to move. Quiet steps. Muted rustling. A cough muffled into cloth. You step aside to let someone pass, a man, tall, shoulders slumped forward, eyes still heavy with sleep. He doesn't speak, only nods. His own steps are practiced. He knows where not to stand. In the corner, someone pours water into a bowl from a gourd. You hear it before you see it, the gentle trickle, the hollow splash. Then the scrape of wood on dirt as a stool is pulled forward. A small ritual, performed without words. You've seen it every morning. You're part of it now. The floor here tells stories you don't speak aloud. It holds the stains of spilled porridge and drops of blood from a cut thumb. It remembers the stomp of boots during last year's frost and the frantic patter of small feet when the cow escaped the pen. If you listened long enough, you might hear it murmuring these moments back to you in the creak of boards above, in the rustle of straw across the threshold. You walk to the hearth, where the earth is blackened from countless fires. There are no embers left, just ash, a faint scent of old wood, and the promise of warmth not yet earned. You kneel. Your knees press into the packed ground. The coolness rises through the fabric of your trousers, makes you inhale sharply through your nose. Beside you, a child drops a stick into the ash, stirring it without purpose. His fingers are grubby, his nails dark with dirt. But he hums softly as he works, like he's speaking a language the adults forgot. You listen, not for the tune, but for the comfort in it. It's the kind of sound that warms more than fire. You watch the way dust settles around his feet when he shifts. The way the floor accepts the weight of him like it's waited for it. You rise, brushing your hands on your tunic, leaving faint prints of ash behind. There is no need to be clean here. Only functional. Only warm. The morning light grows slightly stronger, enough to turn the dust in the air into silver. You walk across the room, each step soft and deliberate, and open the door just enough to let in air. The fog greets you again, silent and still. The ground outside is muddier than inside, but not by much. You'll have to walk it soon. You'll carry water. Feed animals. Maybe dig. Maybe mend. But for now, your bare feet press into earth, and the earth gives slightly in return. It breathes. Not loudly. Not obviously. But patiently. Like it knows you. Like it's always known you. And when you take your next step, it welcomes the imprint. Not because you are important. Not because you matter more than anyone else. But because here, in this small, forgotten hut on a patch of land no one drew on any map, your weight is part of the story. You step again. And the floor remembers. You knew before you touched it. You could feel the weight of the emptiness just by looking at it, the way it leaned too easily against the doorframe, the absence of dampness around its rim, the hollow sound it made when the wind brushed against its side. You lift it anyway, cradling the rough wood with both hands, hoping for the weight that isn't there. It's light. Lighter than it should be. Lighter than you need it to be. The bucket is empty. Again. The well is down the path, beyond the crooked fence that marks the edge of what used to be called a yard. Past the chickens, past the drying line strewn with threadbare tunics and aprons stiff with yesterday's wind. Past the broken cartwheel leaning against the shed no one uses anymore. You know the way. Your feet know it, even if your mind hasn't caught up yet. You step out, the cold biting gently at your toes. The earth squelches beneath you, thawed in patches, frozen in others. It clings to your heels, tries to pull you down, make you slower. You shift your grip on the bucket, fingers wrapped around its thick wooden handle. The grooves are smooth from generations of hands. You imagine them, thin, cracked fingers, calloused palms, quiet grips, and now yours among them. Your breath is visible. It curls upward and vanishes like everything else you wish would stay. The path winds like it always does, slightly downhill, always slippery where the moss gathers near the edge. You walk carefully. Not because you're afraid to fall, but because you're too tired to fall twice. The well waits in its usual silence. It's not much to look at, just stones stacked in a circle, damp with moss and rimmed with frost. The wooden cover is off again. Someone left it leaning against the post. The rope is frayed. The pulley creaks when you touch it. You listen to it groan and mutter as you begin to lower the bucket, the rope scratching against the old wood like a voice too hoarse to speak clearly. You count the seconds in your head. 1, 2, 3, waiting for the soft splash that means you found water. But it never comes. Just the dull thud of the bucket landing on stone. You tug it up again, breath steady, heart quiet. The rope drags slowly, heavier than the bucket itself. When it finally clears the rim, you see it, the bottom of the pail coated in nothing but silt and dust. Still empty. You pause, letting the wind find your sleeves again. You close your eyes. You don't sigh. Not out loud. You just hold the bucket in your arms like something fragile and broken. And then, because there's nothing else to do, you carry it back. The cold is sharper now. The kind that wakes the skin but doesn't quite reach the bones. You know it will later. You'll feel it in your wrists when you knead dough. In your knees when you crouch near the fire. In your shoulders when you sleep curled tight, trying to make yourself smaller than the night. You pass the goats huddled near the gate. One bleats softly, lifting its head but not moving. The chickens scratch half-heartedly at the ground. They're not hopeful, just persistent. Like everything here. Back inside, the room has warmed a little. Not much. Just enough to notice the difference when you cross the threshold. You set the empty bucket beside the door again, where someone else will check it later and find it just as you did. There's a woman stirring porridge with a stick. You hear the thick, wet scrape of it against the sides of the pot. It's not boiling yet. The fire beneath it is slow, coaxed from a handful of last night's embers and 2 pieces of kindling that still carry the scent of rain. Smoke curls upward and escapes through the gaps in the wall. Not quickly. Just enough to keep your eyes from watering. Someone else checks the bucket without asking. Lifts it. Weighs it. Says nothing. Just sets it back down with the same quiet disappointment. No surprise. Just confirmation. You sit on the floor, legs crossed, arms wrapped around your middle. The cold from outside lingers in your sleeves, in your collar. It won't leave until you move. Until you work. Until your hands are red and stinging and your breath comes fast enough to fog your lashes. But for now, you're still. Watching the fire try to remember what it means to be flame. The bucket sits beside you. Empty, yes, but not silent. It holds stories even without water. You see them if you look long enough, the girl who tripped carrying it and broke her arm. The boy who dropped it down the well and cried for hours. The old man who used it to catch rain during the long summer when the sky forgot how to give. You touch its rim. The wood is cracked near one side. Someone tried to fix it with a piece of twine, tied tightly around the lip. It holds, for now. Like everything else here. And though it carries no water this morning, the bucket still does its job. It waits. It hopes. It stays close. You lean against the wall beside it. Your eyes are heavy. The fire crackles softly. The porridge simmers with a quiet patience. And in the hush of the hut, with the breath of smoke and damp straw around you, you find something like peace. Not comfort. Not joy. Just peace. And sometimes, that's enough. You don't sit at a table. There isn't one. Not really. Just a flat plank balanced across two wooden stumps near the hearth, blackened at the corners from too many close calls with open flame. There are no chairs either. Only the floor, and knees that fold because they must. You sit on your haunches. Slowly. Carefully. The cold from the earth crawls into your bones if you let it, so you wrap your tunic tighter, tuck your feet beneath you, and place your hands in your lap. The steam from the pot of porridge curls into the air like a gentle lie. It looks warm. Smells edible. But it's not ready yet. Beside you, someone slides over a hunk of bread. It's dark and dense and hard along the edges, chipped like old stone. No one baked it fresh this morning. It's the kind of bread that gets made once, then stretched for days. You touch it, thumb running along the crust. It resists, like it has no interest in being eaten. There's no butter. No jam. Just this. And a cup. A rough ceramic thing, mottled with ash around the rim. It's filled halfway with small beer, flat, bitter, and just thick enough to make your stomach hesitate. You sip it anyway. Not because you like it. Because water might kill you, and this might not. It's warm where it shouldn't be, and cold where you wish it weren't. But it's liquid, and it goes down. You bite into the bread, slow and cautious. It crunches in your mouth like gravel softened only slightly by saliva. You chew because you have to. Because there's no other option waiting. Around you, others do the same. Quiet chewing. Small sips. No one speaks. There's nothing to say. It's not a meal that invites conversation. It's a moment to survive, to fuel, to carry the body just far enough into the day. A child beside you gnaws on crust, her front teeth working it like a tool. Her hands are dirty. She doesn't mind. A man across from you dips his bread into the porridge, testing the edge of its warmth. He pulls it back quickly. Not ready. Not yet. You look down at your own piece. Cracked in the middle. Laced with something that might have once been barley. Maybe rye. Maybe sawdust. You can't tell anymore. There's a sweetness missing. A softness. A memory of warmth that belongs to another time, another place. But you chew anyway. The beer tastes of wood and faint rot. You drink more. Your stomach doesn't protest, but it doesn't celebrate either. You can already feel the flatness of it settling, like it's looking for a way to escape. You chase it with another bite of bread. It breaks off in uneven shards, one of which scrapes the roof of your mouth. You ignore it. The fire behind you pops softly. You hear the shift of someone rising, the scrape of bowl against stone. The porridge is nearly ready. You can smell the mush now, oats or barley, maybe both. Cooked until they surrender. Stirred until they become one thing instead of many. A ladle dips. A bowl fills. You hold out your hands instinctively. The clay is warm when it touches your palms, the steam kissing your cheeks like a distant kindness. You stare into the bowl. It's not much to look at. Pale, lumpy, flecked with something green and wilted, onion, perhaps, or yesterday's herb scrapings. It smells like wet grain and the inside of a pot that's been used too many times. But there is heat. And there is enough. You eat slowly. Spoon by spoon. The texture sticks to your tongue, then your throat. It takes effort to swallow, not because it's thick, but because it tastes like work. Like days strung together without seasoning or break. Still, it fills you. Not in the way rich food does, not the satisfying fullness, not the warmth that radiates outward. This is a different kind of full. A padding. A lining against hunger. The others eat, too. No one rushes. No one complains. You hear only the sounds of mouths, spoons, breath, fire. You scrape your bowl until there's nothing left but a smear of paste in the bottom. You finish the last swallow of beer. It's warmer now. Less bitter. Or maybe your tongue has simply gone numb. You set the bowl down. The bread crust is gone. A few crumbs linger on your sleeve, clinging to the wool. You flick them away, but they don't fall. They stay, like everything else here. The meal is over. But no one moves right away. There's a stillness after breakfast, like the whole room is waiting for someone else to rise first. No one wants to be the one to break the hush. No one wants to be the one to say that it's time again. Time to go outside. Time to bend and lift and carry and mend. Time to begin the labor that never really ends. You stretch your legs. Your knees pop. Your back whispers its protest. But you stand anyway. Because the bread was hard. The beer was bitter. The porridge was gray. But it was breakfast. Sort of. And now, it's time to work. Your hands still carry the feel of breakfast. A film of porridge. The texture of old crust. The faint, clinging scent of smoke and barley and something like wood rot. It's not unpleasant, but it lingers, the way everything does here: taste, smell, silence. You need to wash. Not because anyone expects you to. Not because cleanliness is praised or prioritized. But because it's habit now. A moment of stillness. A ritual, however humble. A quiet way to mark the line between waking and working. You step outside. The cold meets you again like a familiar handshake, firm, insistent, uninvited. Your fingers curl against your palm instinctively. They remember yesterday's chill. And the day before that. And the day before that. The wash basin sits where it always does, just beyond the crooked doorway, beside a patch of ground that's been trampled into a shallow depression. The basin is carved from a single block of wood, its sides worn smooth, its inside pale with years of use. The water inside is still. Quiet. A thin layer of ice rims the surface, not thick enough to stop you, but thick enough to make you pause. You blow into your hands. Not to warm them, but to remind them they still belong to you. Then you kneel. Slowly. Carefully. The ground is damp, and the cold climbs through your knees the moment you touch down. You reach into the water. The shock is immediate. It seizes your fingers, slices into your wrists, races up your arms. You clench your teeth, not from pain, but from instinct. The air around you seems to go quiet. Even the birds hush when your skin breaks the surface. You hold them there. Just long enough. And then you move. You rub the backs of your hands first. Then the palms. Thumb against thumb. The dirt releases slowly, reluctantly, like it's part of you now. There is no soap. No lather. Only friction and cold. Only breath. The water darkens slightly. A swirl of ash, soil, and memory. You scrub your knuckles. Beneath your nails. Between your fingers. You pause at the wrists, where the wool of your sleeves has pressed faint ridges into your skin. You rub them gently, tracing the marks left by morning. You cup the water and splash your face. The cold snaps your breath in half. It runs into your hairline, down your neck. You gasp, but only a little. You let it happen. The cold makes you reel again. Wakes something quiet inside you. A woman steps outside beside you. She carries a small cloth and nothing else. She nods at you, her expression unreadable, and waits her turn. You finish quickly, not out of haste, but out of courtesy. You stand, shaking water from your fingers. It falls in little arcs that catch the pale light. Then you wipe your hands on your tunic, not because it dries them well, but because it's what's there. Your hands are red now. But warm. Warmer than they were. The woman kneels. Begins her own washing. Neither of you speak. You don't need to. The rhythm of washing here is its own language. A shared knowledge passed not in words, but in motion. In patience. In steam rising from wet sleeves. You look down at your hands. They're rougher than you remember. The lines in your palms are deeper. Your fingers cracked in places where the cold found its way in during the night. But they are clean. Cleaner, anyway. You flex them once. Twice. Feel the blood returning to your knuckles, the ache giving way to usefulness. Inside, someone feeds the fire. You see the smoke snake up through the roof slats, curling and stretching like it wants to escape but doesn't quite know how. You stay a moment longer. Watching the water still again. Watching the ripple you left fade into silence. This isn't bathing. It isn't comfort. It's not even proper washing. But your hands are warmer. And sometimes, that's enough. Because in a world without soap, you learn that warmth can be cleaner than water. And silence can be sharper than frost. You turn back to the door. And your fingers, though red, though raw, feel ready to hold something again. Even if it's only the next hour. Even if it's only the cold. It hangs where it always does, on the rusted nail near the hearth, limp as old leaves, wrinkled from weeks of wear and barely holding its shape. A tunic, technically. Though the word shirt feels more generous, more modern, more forgiving. This is not a shirt. This is a skin made of cloth. One you've been shedding and slipping back into for longer than you care to admit. You lift it from the nail and feel the weight of it. Not heavy like armor, not comforting like a blanket. But heavy in a different way. The weight of salt from your own sweat. The weight of dirt, pressed into every seam. The weight of the days you've already lived inside it. The fabric is wool. Or what used to be wool, once, long ago. Now it's a patchwork of repairs and re-repairs. Stitches overlap in confused spirals. A seam at the shoulder puckers from where a needle bent mid-thread. A tear under the right arm has been pulled together with a piece of twine, knotted like a fisherman's net, visible and crude. You run your fingers across the neckline, tracing the edge with quiet dread. The hole meant for your head is slightly too small. It always was. You wonder if the tunic has shrunk, or if you've grown. Or maybe time has just made everything tighter. You duck your head, lift your arms, and pull it over. The collar chafes your neck as it goes down, dragging over the back of your ears. It scratches like straw, like memory. Your arms find the sleeves, narrow at the wrist, loose at the elbow, tighter again near the shoulder. A strange shape. One made for someone else. Someone long gone, or imagined. You shift your body, pulling at the hem, trying to make it sit right. But it doesn't. It never has. The left shoulder slouches. The right clings. One sleeve rides too high, bunching at the elbow. You tug at it again. Still wrong. Always wrong. It's not uncomfortable. Not anymore. You've grown used to the way it fails you. The shirt doesn't breathe. It holds in warmth too tightly when the fire is close. And when the wind finds you, it lets it all go, like it forgot you were trying to stay warm at all. It doesn't know how to keep you comfortable. It doesn't try. You remember once, early on, you tried to trade it. You'd seen another boy wearing something newer, something lighter. But his mother shook her head before you could even speak. It still holds together, she'd said, not unkindly. That's all that matters. So now, this is yours. The tunic that never fit. The cloth that reminds your skin of its edges every time you move. You've stopped wishing it were different. Stopped imagining what it might feel like to wear something soft, something clean, something tailored for your shape. That kind of imagining doesn't help here. But still, sometimes, in quiet moments like now, just after washing, just before labor, you remember what cotton felt like. Maybe not in this life. Maybe not in this century. But somewhere in your bones, there's a memory of clean seams, of cool linen against the collarbone, of sleeves that didn't twist when you reached overhead. You shake the thought off. It's not helpful. You tie the cord at your waist. The loop has frayed at the ends, and one side is longer than the other. But it holds. That's all you needed to do. You check the hem again. The back hangs lower than the front. You pull it up, tuck it in. Futile gestures, but familiar ones. There are stains on the front, some pale, some dark. You recognize them all. Soup. Blood. Sap from gathering kindling. Ash from when you lean too close to the hearth. They're not ugly. They're just proof. Proof of days survived. Someone walks past you. A boy, maybe 12. He glances at your tunic, then at his own. It's torn at the neck. His elbow pokes through a rip patched once with dried grass. He doesn't look embarrassed. Just aware. You nod at him. He nods back. That's what clothes mean here. Not fashion. Not expression. Just function. Just familiarity. A quiet understanding of need. You adjust your sleeves one last time and glance outside. The wind is still moving. The sky has not decided what kind of day it will be. Rain is possible. Sun is unlikely. You will work either way. The tunic pinches at the sides when you breathe in too deeply. You don't. You let your chest rise only enough. Enough to start the next hour. You step toward the door. The shirt still doesn't fit. But you wear it anyway. Because it's yours. Because it's morning. And because the day is waiting. The door groans as you open it, slow and steady, letting the outside seep in before you step through. The air smells faintly of wet hay and old wood. It settles in your lungs like something familiar, something earned. The light outside is pale, gray, maybe even blue, filtered through low clouds and the thin edge of mist that never quite leaves this part of the valley. The animals are already stirring. Not in a rush. Not an alarm. Just movement. Soft, steady, like breath rising in a long sleep. You hear it before you see it, the low snuff of a cow's nose, the scrape of hooves against damp earth, the faint rustle of straw being shifted from one corner of the pen to another. You walk toward the shed, your feet remembering the places where the ground gives way. Mud here, stone there. The wooden fence groans under your hand as you climb over it. You land on the other side with a soft thud. No one sees. No one needs to. This is what the morning asks of you. The cattle don't look up at first. They've seen you before. They know your scent, your steps, the way you move when you're too cold to speak. One of them, the old one, the one with the slow eye, turns her head slightly and flicks her ear. That's her way of saying good morning. You answer by lifting a pitchfork. The straw in the corner is dry enough, if brittle. You gather it, spreading it in slow, practiced arcs. The rhythm is quiet, nearly invisible. Lift. Step. Drop. Spread. Again. The cows shift their weight as you move past them, their massive bodies barely making sound. It's not silence, not really. You hear the hollow clunk of hooves. The soft grind of teeth on cud. A breath that fogs into the morning and fades. A soft, sleepy moo, less of a call, more of a sigh. A tail swishes. A body leans against wood, making it creak like an old ship drifting on dry land. And through it all, the steady cadence of work. You shovel out the old bedding, heavy with dampness and time. The smell rises, not foul, just deep. Earthy. Real. It clings to your sleeves. Works into your skin. You do not flinch. This is part of the life. The part that reminds you the animals are warm when the world is not. You pause to scratch behind the ear of one of the calves. Its fur is soft in patches and matted in others. Its head presses against your hand, not forceful, not desperate, just present. Just there. You scratch a moment longer, letting the calm sink in. Somewhere nearby, someone else is splitting wood. You hear the axe strike. Then the pause. Then another. Rhythm, again. Different tool, same song. You carry water next. One bucket at a time. The well's drawn enough now to give, but not freely. The handle digs into your fingers. Your shoulders ache before you reach the trough. The cows gather near, snorting quietly, nudging one another with the kind of lazy urgency that means they've been thirsty longer than they let on. You pour slowly. Watch the ripple. Let them drink. You lean against the post afterward, letting your arms rest. Your breath comes in short clouds, smaller now. The cold has faded from your fingertips, replaced with the dull warmth of effort. The barn stands quiet behind you. Half-roofed. Half-reliable. But it shelters what it must. Birds nest in the rafters. You see one hop along a beam, head tilted. It watches you. You nod once. It doesn't move. You step back into the pen to check on the feed. The trough is half full. You reach into the sack at the corner and scatter the rest of the grain. The cows eat without sound, mouths working slowly, steadily. Their calm becomes yours. This is the part of the morning no one speaks of. Not because it's dull, but because it's sacred in its own way. A kind of quiet prayer made of repetition and movement. No sermons. No words. Just you and creatures too large to ignore, too gentle to fear. You sit down on the stump near the fence when the chores are done, legs stretched out, arms resting across your knees. You watch the steam rise from the animals' backs, warmed from within, unaware of the chill. You envy them a little. Their simplicity. Their contentment. One of them walks past you, hooves muffled in straw. It pauses. Looks at you. You look back. Nothing is said. But everything is understood. You lean your head against the fence. Close your eyes for just a moment. And in that moment, there is no hunger. No wait. No rush. Just the quiet of cattle. And the stillness of chores well done. You open your eyes again. The day is not even half begun. There is more to do. Always more. But for now, you stand in the quiet. And it holds you like a friend. The shoes are by the door, just where you left them yesterday. Crooked. Mud-caked. Still damp near the toe. They're heavier than they look, chunks of hollowed wood strapped with worn leather, carved not for comfort but for survival. You slide your foot in, heel first, then toes. They fit like they always have, almost. The left one rubs at the ankle. The right one tips when you walk too fast. But you wear them anyway, because they are yours. Because there is no second pair. Because the ground outside doesn't care about comfort, it only cares about whether you're ready for it. You step out. The path isn't really a path. It's a memory of one. A stretch of earth walked so often it forgot how to grow things. Dust rises with each step, not in clouds, but in whispers. It clings to the cuffs of your tunic, works into the creases behind your knees. It makes its home quietly, the way all things do here. Each step clicks. A hollow knock of wood on packed dirt. Click. 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 You sound like time passing. Like someone measuring minutes with their saws. The road curves just slightly, tracing the edge of the village like a finger tracing the lip of a bowl. Stone houses lean inward as you pass them, their rooftops sagging like old shoulders. Thatched, moss-covered, stitched with patches of old cloth to stop the rain. Doors creak open. A dog barks once, then falls silent again. Someone's baby wails faintly, the sound carried in soft waves through an open window. Your feet carry you without question. The shoes knock and slide, balancing between rhythm and struggle. You feel every stone beneath them, dull and rounded by centuries of footsteps. You wonder how many feet have walked here. How many shoes? How many lives pressed down into the same grooves you step into now? You pass a girl leading a goat by a frayed rope. Her shoes are smaller than yours, thinner, barely held together. She nods at you. You nod back. The goat sneezes. Dust catches the light. You keep walking. Somewhere in the trees, a bird calls out, not for you, not for anyone. Just because. Because it's morning. Because the sky hasn't closed yet. You shift your pace. The slope ahead is steeper, and the wooden soles slide if you're careless. You take smaller steps, knees slightly bent, letting the ground pass under you more than pushing it away. The shoes complain in creaks. But they hold. The sun peeks through the clouds, not to warm, just to remind. It casts long shadows from fence posts and stones and broken carts left to rot. You walk through all of them. You are used to being shadowed. The dust begins to settle around your ankles. Fine powder. Pale as flour. It gathers in the gaps where your shoes and skin don't meet. It stays there. All day, probably. You'll wash it off tonight, partially. Just like yesterday. And the day before. You stop once. Just for a breath. Just to feel the stillness. The shoes rock slightly as you plant your feet. The path stretches ahead, winding past the mill and the well, toward the fields and the edge of what most people still call home. You bend down, run a thumb along the crack in the side of your right shoe. It's grown. Just a little. You press the leather strap tighter, as if that will stop time from splitting it further. You know it won't. But still, you walk. Past the smell of drying herbs hung from windows. Past a boy dragging a cart full of turnips. Past the stone wall with the scratch marks from last year's goat escape. Past the places where your memories sit like old chairs, waiting for you to notice them. You don't walk fast. There's no need to. And there's no reason to hurry toward a field you can't escape. But there's something soft in the sound now. The way the wood taps against the earth. The way the dust follows. The way your breath settles with the rhythm of movement. Your shoes were never made for running. But they were made to last. And even if they never fit quite right. Even if they pinch in all the wrong places. They've carried you this far. Click. 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 The path waits ahead. And your feet know how to follow it. The door groans open again, and you step inside with shoulders aching and dust at your knees. The warmth greets you first, not a blazing heat, not enough to chase away the morning chill still clinging to your bones, but a gentle, smoldering warmth. A breath of fire, tired but alive. It gathers near the hearth like an old friend who won't speak unless spoken to. You close the door behind you, gently. It never quite fits the frame, always leans a little, creaks at the hinge like a warning you've come to ignore. You leave your shoes near the corner where the straw is thickest, and step barefoot onto the hard-packed floor. Your feet remember the grooves, the coolness, the bits of straw that tickle the soles. The stew is already on. You smell it before you see it, heavy, smoky, familiar. Not the rich aroma of feasts or meat or spice, but something more honest. Root vegetables gone soft in the boil. Onions, mostly. Maybe parsnip. A bit of dried herb if someone remembered. There's no meat. Not today. The smoke tells you that too. It carries a bitterness that means the wood was damp and the pot was put on early to hide how little it held. The hearth crackles. Not loud. Not bright. Just steady. A red, beating heart at the center of the cottage. You walk toward it, drawn not by hunger but by the pull of something ancient, something that says, you belong here, without words. The pot hangs from its hook, rocking ever so slightly as the stew inside shifts with each bubble. You squat beside it, hands hovering over the fire, palms open like a prayer you don't speak aloud. The warmth sinks into your skin. Slowly. Carefully. Like it's checking if you deserve it. Someone behind you stirs the pot. A wooden spoon, warped from time and ash, dips in and circles slow. The person doesn't speak. No one does. You hear only the quiet breath of flame, the slow scrape of wood on iron, the faint sizzle as a splash finds its way into the embers. A bowl is handed to you, rough clay, chipped at the rim. You nod in thanks, even though no one asked you to. The stew inside is thick, brown, still steaming. You carry it carefully to the plank table balanced in the center of the room. Others are already there, hunched and quiet, eating slowly with hands around their bowls like they're afraid the heat might leave too soon. You sit. The first bite burns your tongue. You don't mind. You welcome it. It wakes something inside you. Not flavor, there's little of that, but memory. Of this same bowl. This same taste. This same hour, just a different day. You chew. Slowly. Carefully. A piece of potato. A chunk of turnip. You think there might be a sliver of carrot, but it's hard to tell. The smoke follows you as you eat. Not directly. It curls and rises and drifts along the ceiling like it's looking for a way out but never finds one. It seeps into your tunic. Settles in your hair. Finds the cracks in your nails. By evening, it will be part of your skin again. By morning, no one will smell it anymore. Someone sneezes softly across from you. Someone else chuckles, just once. The kind of sound that says, yes, I'm still here, without needing to prove it. The stew gets thinner at the bottom of the bowl. You tip it carefully, catch the last of the warmth before it cools. The spoon scrapes against clay. That sound is a signal. Midday is nearly over. Rest is nearly gone. You set the bowl aside. Wipe your mouth with the back of your hand. There's no cloth. No napkin. Just the sleeve of the shirt that still doesn't fit quite right. Your fingers are sticky now. You rub them together, warming them again at the hearth before you stand. There is still smoke. Still stew. Still silence. And in all of that, there is life. Not loud life. Not proud life. But steady. And real. You nod once to the others, to the fire, to the pot still simmering with what little it could give. Then you step back toward the door, knowing that outside the dust still waits, and the work will start again. But for this brief hour, there was warmth. And there was food. And the smoke, thick and bitter, smelled almost like comfort. It comes not with warning, but with certainty. A sound that does not ask to be heard, only obeyed. It peals across the gray sky, low and wide, spilling like slow thunder through the valley. You feel it before you hear it, the way a bird feels the coming storm in its bones. The church bell. It tolls once. Then again. Then again. Each note stretches, bends into the quiet like iron dragged across stone. It does not echo, it lingers. It fills your chest. It makes your breath pause without permission. You look up. Everyone does. Time bends when the bell speaks. Not forward, not back, just inward. You become smaller for a moment. Simpler. Reduced to a listener. A servant of rhythm and sound. It doesn't mark the hour. Not exactly. It marks the division. The line between one kind of tired and another. Morning fades now. Midday ends. Afternoon steps forward like a second shift in the same body. You do not groan. You do not sigh. But something in you moves. Quietly. Surrendering. You wipe your hands on your tunic. The stew is gone. The bowl sits empty near the hearth, turned on its side to dry. The fire is mostly embers now, too tired to protest. It crackles, faint and thin, as if it too is listening. Another toll. Deeper this time. You step outside into a wind that smells faintly of earth and coal smoke. The sky has not changed. Still pale. Still unsure of rain. The bell continues. You see others frozen in place, not by fear, but by understanding. A boy on the road holds a bundle of sticks in both arms, not moving. A woman stands with a bundle of laundry tucked under her chin. A man sharpening a scythe leans on it, blade downward. All still. All listening. It is not holy, not exactly. But it is sacred. Because it is the only time that belongs to no one. The few moments when the land holds its breath. And so do you. The sound rolls over fields, through branches, across rooftops patched with mud. It reaches animals too, cows lift their heads, chickens grow quiet. Even the birds change their song to make room. And then it stops. Mid-sentence. No farewell, no fading. Just silence. The kind that rings louder than the bell itself. It's almost a kindness. Almost. You don't move right away. No one does. There's a stillness, a grace, in the after. A breath held a few seconds too long. And then, slowly, the world exhales. Feet begin to shuffle. Tools rise. Buckets clatter. The work resumes. And you. You walk. Back toward the field. You do not look at the church on the hill. You know it's there. You know the bell is cold again, hanging still in the tower like a mouth just closed. It will ring again later. At dusk. To end things. For now, it has only split the day in half. And you. Like everyone else. Must carry the pieces. You do not reach for silverware. There is none. No gleam of steel beside your bowl, no neat rows of utensils laid out with purpose. No clinking of metal against porcelain. Here, your fingers are your tools. Always have been. They are blunt and knuckled, stained at the tips from soil, soot, and the dark red of wild berries that bled onto your skin 2 days ago. And still, they serve. The meal is laid not on plates but in a shared dish, a wide wooden basin that rests on the table's center, its edges darkened by years of handling and soup that has bubbled too high. The stew from midday has thinned, stretched again with more water, more turnip peel, more memory than substance. There's no broth now, only a paste that clings to the side of the bowl like it's trying not to be forgotten. You sit cross-legged on the floor beside it. Others do the same. There is no pecking order here, no table of lords, no cloth napkins folded into swans. Just bodies weary from the field, hands rough from labor, and the silence that settles when hunger rises. You wait for your turn. Not because anyone told you to. But because it's what you do. No one grabs. No one rushes. Hunger has no shame, but here, it has patience. When the basin passes to you, you wipe your fingers once on your tunic, out of habit more than cleanliness. You dip them into the mixture, warm but fading. Your index and middle finger scoop along the side, curling under a chunk of something soft, parsnip, maybe. Or bread that dissolved beyond recognition. It's hard to tell now. You bring it to your mouth. Slowly. Carefully. It tastes of salt. Of earth. Of old onions. The warmth is welcome. The texture is not. Still, you eat. You chew without complaint. The food sticks to your teeth, your tongue. You swallow hard. It goes down like a promise. Not a sweet one. Just a necessary one. There's a rhythm to it. Dip, lift, taste. Wipe fingers. Repeat. You learn not to take too much. Not because you're told. But because you've seen what happens when someone does. And you remember the days when the bowl had less to give. The smallest child eats with both hands. His fingers are silent spoons, dripping down his wrists. No one stops him. No one scolds. It is a kindness to be full in any shape. There is bread again, if you can call it that. A heel, dry and firm as bark, passed from hand to hand. You tear off a bit, press it into the mush, soften it. It gives way slowly, like old rope pulled through water. You chew. The crust scrapes your gum, but you don't wince. Pain is expected. Softness is not. A woman near you uses her thumb like a wedge, scooping lentils from the corner of the bowl. Her nails are short. The skin beneath them blackened. She does not notice. Neither do you. That kind of dirt is as permanent as breath. The bowl grows lighter. The room grows dimmer. The fire is low now. Its light dances on your knuckles as you lift another bite. You watch the way the shadows stretch along the wall, cast by the fingers that feed you. You wonder briefly what a fork might feel like, what it might mean to eat with polished metal, to pierce food instead of scooping it, to lift your meal like something delicate, not something scraped from the bottom of the pot. But that wonder fades quickly. The fantasy has no place here. Here, your hands know the work. They have tilled and turned and torn. They've held rope, shoveled ash, scrubbed clothes until the skin beneath split. It is fitting, then, that they feed you too. The final scrap of food is shared without words. A fingertip pressed into the bowl's edge, wiping what remains. It is not waste. It is respect. And it is past. You lick your thumb. Not out of greed. Out of habit. Out of the understanding that nothing should be left behind. Someone coughs softly. A body shifts against the wall. The fire sighs. There are no forks here. No knives. No spoons but the wooden one used to stir the pot. The rest is up to you. And so, you eat like those who came before. With the same hands that planted and pulled. With fingers that remember the texture of survival. Because when the food is humble. And the fire is low. And the wind waits outside the door. A meal before metal. Is still a meal. It waits for you where it always does, slung over the bench near the door, a shape too stiff to call soft, too shapeless to call clothing. Your wool cloak. The evening wind has already begun its song, rattling the shutters, brushing against the cracks in the walls like a visitor trying to get in. You know better than to meet the cold without armor, and here, armor means wool, thick, rough, stubborn. You lift it from the bench. It's heavier than you remember. Damp from last night's mist, sour with the smell of smoke and the salt of your own body. The fabric doesn't fold so much as bend. It creaks like bark. You swing it over your shoulders. It drags across your neck like a rasp. The collar bites first, coarse, high, unkind. Then the sleeves scratch down your arms, finding every place your skin is thin, every cut you forgot you had. It doesn't care. It doesn't ease. You tie it at the front with the frayed cord that's barely holding. The knot sits tight against your throat, just under your chin. Too tight if you swallow. Too loose if you walk. You've worn this cloak through rain that turned to ice before it hit the ground. Through fields where wind came low and fast, slicing across your legs. Through nights beside dying fires, when your breath made clouds that hovered over your face like ghosts that wouldn't leave. It has kept you alive. But never warm. You step outside. The wind greets you sharply. It finds the gaps where the wool doesn't reach, curls under your sleeves, down your collar, around your ankles. The cloak flutters once, then settles. It does not flutter for beauty, it does so like a flag surrendering to the cold. The wool carries every day you've ever worn it. The tug of mud. The smoke of kitchens. The scent of sweat dried over and over until it became something permanent. You could wash it, but the fibers would rebel. They do not want to be clean. They want to be endured. As you walk, the fabric rubs against your skin, reminding you of its presence with every step. It rides up at the back, catches at the knees. You shift. You shrug. You adjust the folds. Nothing helps. But you do not complain. Not out loud. Not here. Everyone wears something that doesn't fit, something that bites. It's part of the world. The nobility may have velvet, fur-lined and perfumed, but even they, somewhere deep in their fine garments, carry the same itch of discomfort. They just call it by different names. You pass a man on the path, his cloak darker, patched in places with cloth that doesn't match. He scratches his neck once, then smiles at you, as if to say, yes, you too. You nod. The shared language of wool. By the time you reach the woodpile, your wrists burn with a dozen small lashes from the cloak's edge. The skin beneath your arms feels rubbed raw. You shift again. The cold gets in. You accept it. Because you can't win. Not against the wool. Not against the wind. And still, you are grateful for it. Because it shields you, even poorly. Because it covers you, even harshly. Because it holds, even when nothing else does. Later, when the sun has fallen behind the trees and the cottage calls you back with its dim orange glow, you'll peel the cloak off like shedding skin. Your body will sigh. You'll scratch at the red lines blooming along your chest, your forearms, your neck. But you'll say nothing. Just rub the welts and whisper, still better than the cold. Because that's the bargain. Warmth or comfort. Never both. And in this world, wool doesn't love you. But it stays. And sometimes, that's enough. So you wear it again. And again. And again. Until the threads forget softness. And so does your skin. And maybe, someday, so does your soul. It stretches before you like a quiet threat. Not loud. Not sudden. Just, certain. The field does not welcome you. It does not wave or call or hum with the joy of growing things. It waits. With the stillness of something that knows you have no choice. The soil is dark in patches, cracked in others, littered with rocks that never seem to leave no matter how many times you dig them out. You step onto the edge and feel it in your bones. That familiar sag in your shoulders. The quiet resignation that settles behind your eyes. You've been here before. You'll be here again. As long as your body moves, the field will be waiting. Your boots sink just slightly into the dirt. It's damp from last week's rain, but not enough to help. The kind of wet that clings without nourishing. You lift your hoe from the fence where you left it yesterday. The handle is splintered in places, worn smooth in others. Your palms already ache from holding it. There is no crowd here. No eyes watching. No applause waiting at the end. Just you, the field, and the day that doesn't care how tired you are. You begin. The first swing is slow. Not out of caution, but fatigue. The blade slices the surface, pulling up weeds that return like regrets. You bend, gather them, toss them to the side. Again. And again. A rhythm as ancient as breath. No one teaches you how to do this. You just do. You've learned by watching others move, bending just so, angling the blade to miss the stones, using your weight instead of your strength when your arms begin to tremble. Sweat gathers under your tunic long before the sun appears. You wipe your brow with your forearm, smearing dirt across your face. It doesn't matter. You're already covered in it. Your fingers are earth. Your knees are bruised from the last fall in the soft part of the path. A bird calls from the tree line. High and short. As if it's mocking you. You keep digging. The wind picks up, tossing dust into your eyes. You blink it away. A stone cracks beneath your blade. You kneel and remove it by hand, holding it a moment like something sacred. Then you toss it aside with the others. You once imagined planting something here that you could be proud of. Something sweet. Strawberries, maybe. But the ground has never forgiven you for that dream. You grow what you can. Barley, if the weather is kind. Turnips, if it's cruel. Time in the field doesn't pass. It stretches. Your back bends, your shoulders burn. You switch hands. The other side is worse. You keep going. You remember stories told by firelight, of fields that bloom gold, of lands where crops rise on their own and farmers sleep at night with full bellies. You know those places are lies. Or dreams. Or too far away to matter. Here, the field takes. It takes your time. Your strength. Your breath. It does not say thank you. It does not change for your effort. It waits for you to return the next day, just as empty, just as quiet. And you will. Because there's no choice. Others work beside you now. Silent. Moving like parts of the same body. No one talks. There's no energy for it. Just grunts, coughs, the creak of tools, and the breath of dust through dry mouths. You glance up once. The sun has moved. Your shadow has shifted. That's how you know you've survived the morning. You stretch your back. It pops. You think of lying down. You don't. You dig again. Because the field doesn't care about your pain. It doesn't pause when your muscles shake. It doesn't listen when you whisper curses through cracked lips. It wants only what it has always wanted. Your hands in the soil. Your knees in the dirt. Your sweat feeding what the sky forgets to water. And so, you give. Again. And again. Not because you hope for kindness. But because you must. Because winter waits beyond the trees. Because mouths wait by the hearth. Because the field might not love you. But it's the only place that will take what you have to give. And in the end, you are not here for reward. You are here because the field does not ask why. Only when. And how long you can last. The fire is lit. But it flickers low, an old man's breath trying not to be forgotten. You crouch beside it, the same way you always do, shoulders curled, knees stiff, hands reaching toward what little warmth dares to rise. The pot hangs from its hook, just above the flames. Blackened with years of soot, chipped along the rim, the iron feels heavier tonight. Not in weight, but in promise. You've filled it with water. Not much. Just enough to believe in. A handful of barley. A sliver of onion. Whatever was left in the cloth bundle hidden in the pantry's darkest corner. No meat. Not even a bone. Just hope. And still, it does not boil. You add more wood, though the stack is low. Damp pieces, ones you'd normally save for mornings. You place them gently on the embers, breathing with them, trying to coax life from ash. The smoke rises fast, bitter and blue. It stings your eyes, curls around your face like something offended. You blink. You cough. You wait. But the pot remains silent. No bubble. No hiss. No promise of heat. So you whisper to it. Not a loud prayer. Not a formal one. Just words. Small ones. Offered like crumbs. Boil, you say. Please. Just a little. Your stomach tightens. It has done this before. Tightened and loosened, night after night, learning the rhythm of want. It no longer growls. It no longer begs. It simply folds inward and endures. You stir the pot anyway. Wooden spoon, rough and short, turning nothing into something. The barley swirls. The onion floats. You pretend this is part of a recipe. That someone once made a meal like this and called it stew. That this isn't just water with memories in it. A child's voice breaks the silence. Is it ready? You pause. You lie. Soon. They believe you. Not because you're convincing, but because they want to. Because that lie is softer than the truth. Softer than the hunger that presses behind their ribs. They sit near the hearth, wrapped in the same wool blanket they slept under last night. Thin. Threadbare. Still warm with the memory of body heat. They stare at the pot the way some stare at stars, looking for meaning in the movement of things too far away to touch. You stir again. The spoon clinks against the bottom. Still nothing. Your hands begin to ache. Not from labor, but from the stillness of waiting. From holding hope too long. The fire snaps. Sparks leap. But the heat is shallow. It warms only the air between you and the flame, not the iron, not the water, not your hope. You whisper again. Boil. Please. There's no magic here. Just the sound of your own breath, the ache in your knees, the smoke in your throat. You trade a week of rest for one full boil. You'd give your boots for one chunk of meat. But you have neither to spare. So you keep stirring. Outside, the wind pushes against the walls. The thatch above groans. Somewhere, an owl calls. The world goes on, unaware of your prayer. The sky doesn't open. The fire doesn't change. The child falls asleep, head on their knees, hands still clutching the edge of the blanket. Their mouth parts slightly, a soft sigh escaping. A hunger dream, maybe. One where the pot is full, the bread is warm, the bowl overflows. You do not wake them. You stir slower now. Not because the pot deserves patience, but because you have nothing else to do. The act becomes its own comfort. The motion, its own lullaby. The water shivers, once. A single ripple. Then still. You close your eyes. And you say the words again. Boil. Not for the food. Not even for the warmth. But for the proof. That effort matters. That want has weight. That something, anything, can still rise in this world. But the pot stays silent. And the fire sighs. And you wait. As you always have. As you always will. Because sometimes, the only thing heavier than an empty stomach is hope that refuses to boil. It started before sunrise. Most things do. Not with shouting, not with drums. But with a whisper. Soft. Crooked. Sliding through the village like smoke before the fire. You didn't hear it from the source. No one ever does. It comes from a neighbor, or a friend of a neighbor, or the cousin of someone who passed through the market before the bread cooled. It comes wrapped in breathless pauses and half-truths, folded into morning chores like something spilled into the flour bag. You heard it while pulling kindling from the woodpile. Did you hear about Ulrich's daughter? The voice was casual, but the eyes weren't. You looked up. Said nothing. That's how you listen here, without words, without blinking too much. Let the speaker feed it to you, piece by piece. She ran off. In the middle of the night. No details. No reason. No proof. Just the hook. Just enough to keep your hands still over the wood, your thoughts drifting from the fire that still hadn't caught. By mid-morning, it was everywhere. At the well, whispers between splashes. At the edge of the field, quiet words traded over wheelbarrows and weeds. In the bakery, passed between hands sticky with dough. Each time, the story changed. She had run off with a merchant. She'd been taken by men in dark cloaks. She was pregnant. She was cursed. She was dead. And somehow, every version sounded possible. That's the thing about gossip, it's not meant to be true. It's meant to feel true. You carry it with you, even when you don't want to. It clings, not like mud, but like smoke. You don't notice the smell until you're far from the fire. Even the old woman with no teeth said something, leaning on her cane beside the church. She always had eyes too big for her boots. No context. No tone. Just a judgment worn smoother than her shawl. You know it's not kindness. But you listen anyway. Because in a place like this, where days repeat like songs with only one verse, gossip is the only story that changes. The only thing that runs faster than horses on broken roads. It moves without feet. It rides no cart, no saddle. It travels through breath, through glances, through silence traded over fences and half-closed doors. You pass two boys carving sticks by the well. Maybe she joined the monks, one says. They don't take girls, says the other. Maybe she wore a beard. They laugh. It's not cruel. Just young. You wonder where the girl really went. If she went anywhere. If she's still curled in the hayloft of the barn, hoping the world forgets her long enough to come back out. But it doesn't matter anymore. The story is bigger than her now. It has grown legs. And teeth. And wings. By the time evening comes, people speak of her like a ghost. Did you feel that wind? She's passing through again. They say it with half smiles and eyes that don't blink. Because to make her story real would mean accepting how easily it could be you. And so you nod. You pass the story on, just once. Not loudly. Not eagerly. Just enough to feel included. Just enough to feel like part of the breath that keeps this place moving. Because gossip is not just poison. It is also a thread. Thin, fraying, but binding. It holds you to the others. Lets you know what they fear. What they hope. Who they envy. And in a world without news, without parchment or post, without letters riding fast across kingdoms, it's the only thing that moves fast enough to feel alive. So when night falls and you sit near the fire, scratching the dried wool at your neck, you think of her. Not with judgment. Not with pity. Just with curiosity. Because you never knew her well. And now, perhaps, no one ever will. But her story lives. In breath and rumor. In glances and silences. In whispers that find your ear before the wind does. And in a village like this. That's how legends are born. Not from heroes. But from girls who disappear. And the words that chase after them. It burns, but it does not warm. The flames flicker in the hearth, doing their little dance, orange licking at blackened logs like tongues too tired to speak. You sit before it, knees pulled to your chest, arms wrapped around your shins, chin pressed to fabric that still carries the scent of earth and smoke and the quiet of your own breath. You fed the fire. You did what you were meant to. The wood was dry enough, cracked at the edges, stacked weeks ago beneath the eaves to keep it from the rain. You struck the flint, cradled the spark, watched it bloom with the tenderness of someone raising a child who might not make it. You coaxed it into being. And now it lives. But only in name. There is no heat in it. Just light. A shallow glow that trembles more than it glows. Your fingers remain stiff. Your feet, curled beneath you, ache with cold that creeps through the floor. It settles in the joints, nests in the marrow, hums softly with every slow exhale you make. Someone else is curled in the corner, under the old wool blanket. You hear their breath, steady and shallow. You envy it. Their sleep, their surrender. Your eyes sting, but not from tiredness. From smoke, maybe. Or something like it. You shift closer to the fire, but the distance doesn't matter. The warmth stays where it is, just out of reach. As if the flames are burning for themselves tonight, not for you. You reach out a hand. Hold it over the hearth. Nothing. No comfort. No soft touch of warmth. Just the illusion of flame. It reminds you of the way people speak when they don't mean it, loud and bright, but empty. You wonder what went wrong. Was it the wrong kind of wood? Did the wind steal the heat before it could rise? Was there too much ash in the grate? You poke it with the iron rod, stirring embers that blink up at you like tired eyes. Sparks leap and vanish. A moment of false hope. But still, nothing. The chill remains, loyal as shadow. You pull your cloak tighter. The wool rasps at your neck. The corners itch. You wish for something softer, but softness is a dream here. Reserved for others. Reserved for no one. Behind you, the cottage creaks. The wind presses against the walls like a sigh trying to get in. It does. It always finds its way. Through the cracks in the door. Through the gaps in the thatch. Through the quiet places where your thoughts are loudest. You hear the sound of water dripping in the corner. The slow drop 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 from the roof where the patch gave out. It's rhythmic. Familiar. You've lived with that drip so long it's become a kind of lullaby. But tonight, even the lullabies feel cold. Your thoughts drift. You imagine other fires. Brighter ones. Ones in great halls where the logs are whole and thick, where the heat spills out into every stone and corner. Fires with meat above them, turning on spits. Fires that warm not just skin, but soul. You close your eyes. Pretend this is one of those fires. Pretend the heat is coming. That the chill will break. That this is only the beginning. But when you open them again, the fire is smaller. The logs are collapsing inward. The light fades in short, shy flickers. You don't want to feed it again. Not because you're lazy. But because you're tired. There's a kind of tired that goes beyond the body. It settles deeper. Into thought. Into silence. Into surrender. So you let the fire do what it will. You lean back against the wall, stone cold and unsympathetic. You listen to the wind, the drip, the soft stirring of sleep in the corner. The night is long. But you know its shape. You've walked through colder ones. You've survived nights without even this flicker of light. Still, there's a quiet sadness in knowing that the fire burns and gives nothing. You stare at it until your eyes blur, until the orange fades into soft shadows and your thoughts go dim. The flame crackles faintly, like it's apologizing for failing you. You don't blame it. Sometimes, even the strong can't give. Sometimes, even fire needs something more than wood. So you close your eyes. You shiver once. You breathe slow. And you wait for morning. Not because it will be warm. But because it will be different. And difference. In a world like this. Is the closest thing to mercy. Night in the cottage isn't silent. It only pretends to be. When the fire dies down to its last breath and the last whispers are swallowed by the dark, another kind of music begins. The kind you don't hear all at once, but in pieces. In pauses. In the soft, Strange sounds that settle in when no one's left to make noise on purpose. The first note is the creak. A low, wooden sigh from the beam above you. It sounds almost human, like someone shifting their weight in a bed they no longer sleep in. It stretches, then stops. Then stretches again. You lie on your side on the straw-stuffed mattress, rough linen against your cheek, your hand tucked beneath the one part of the blanket that still feels warm. The blanket smells of smoke, old wool, and the skin of every body that's borrowed it before you. You don't mind. It's a comfort now. Familiar. Honest. The crickets come next. Soft at first, just one. A high chirp from beneath the floorboards. Then two. Then more. Until it sounds like 1,000 tiny fiddles tuning in the distance. The sound is sharp but not unpleasant. It pulses like breath. Like blood in the ear. A rhythm you didn't ask for, but one your body seems to know. You let it in. You let it play. Because the crickets always sing here. Even when everything else forgets to. The wind nudges the shutters. A gentle knock. Then a groan. Then quiet again. It's always testing the hinges. Always wondering if it might be let inside. You hope it doesn't find a way. Not tonight. Someone breathes heavily from the other side of the room. A slow rise, a pause, a whistle through their nose, then stillness. Then again. Their sleep is deep. Earned. You envy it, a little. Above you, the roof shifts. Thatch rustling. Beams settling. The memory of the day creaking out of the wood. It's like the house itself is exhaling. Letting go. Relaxing its spine. You didn't notice how much it held until now. You close your eyes. A draft slips past your neck, sneaking through some unseen crack. It curls behind your ear and makes you pull the blanket higher. You tuck your knees up, drawing yourself small, folding into the warmth like a note sealed in a letter. Somewhere near the hearth, the last coals glow. Not enough to see by, but enough to know the dark hasn't won completely. They pulse like the beat of something sleeping. A quiet heart. A tiny sun that forgot to rise. A dog barks in the distance. Not nearby. Not threatening. Just a reminder that the village doesn't disappear at night. It softens, yes, but it lives. Still here. Still breathing. Just like you. The wood creaks again. A different beam. Or the same one, remembering something. You don't open your eyes. The lullaby continues. Crickets. Creaks. Breath. Wind. No music you can hum. No chorus you can sing. But a melody just the same. The kind of melody you only notice when you're quiet enough to need it. When the day has taken all your words and left you only with listening. Your thoughts drift, unthreaded. They come and go like shadows behind cloth. You don't chase them. You just let them pass. Like dreams that arrive early. Like memories without sharp corners. You think of warm bread. Of sun on your shoulders. Of nothing at all. The sounds fade, but they don't leave. They stay around you, soft and slow, like the arms of something older than comfort, older than sleep. And you let go. Because the night doesn't need silence to be gentle. It only needs time. And a song that no one sings. And tonight, it sings for you. In creaking wood. In cricket song. In breath and fading ember. A lullaby without words. But one that knows your name. You lie down with care, not because the bed might break, but because your bones already have. The straw beneath your back shifts like it's remembering you, poking through the threadbare cloth in soft, unwelcome places. It itches. It pricks. It smells like the loft where it once lived, like dry grass, old sweat, and the dust of 10,000 forgotten days. But you do not move. You've learned to stay still. Movement only wakes the ache. Your head rests not on a pillow, because pillows are for dreams of a different kind, but on a bundled tunic, folded in a way that never quite works. It's too lumpy. Too thin. Too damp at the edges from a week of fog that never quite left the walls. Still, it is yours. And it is soft enough to pretend. You close your eyes. Sleep doesn't come fast here. It sneaks in slowly, the way the cold did hours ago, through cracks in the thatch, through holes in the silence. You wait for it without waiting, drifting gently in the warm space between thought and forgetfulness. There are no feathers. No linen cases. No sweet-smelling cloths washed in lavender water. There is your tunic. Your breath. Your own weight. And the night. It curls around you, not like a blanket, but like a second skin, cool at first, then strangely warm in the way old things become when they remember how to hold you. You do not dream of castles. Or crowns. Or skies clear of smoke. You dream of bread that never runs out. Of fire that never dies. Of boots without holes. Of voices singing in the distance, not with joy, but with peace. Your hand twitches once in sleep, reaching for something it doesn't expect to find. A real pillow. A mother's hand. A memory. No matter. Dreams don't need names. Just space. And here, beneath the uneven thatch, you find just enough. The tunic shifts. The straw rustles. A moth flutters somewhere in the dark, tapping gently at the wall. The coals behind your closed eyes blink one last time before sleep takes them too. You breathe deep. Once. Then again. The air tastes of wool and old wood, but there's something softer underneath. A sweetness. A quiet you didn't notice until now. And then, at last. You dream. Not because the world has softened. But because you have. Because your body, worn and weathered, knows that even without pillows, even without comfort, there is still a place to rest. And in that place, between the creak of the roof, and the hum of the night, and the breath that settles deep and low, you find a kind of peace no one ever taught you how to ask for. You find the sleep of the forgotten, the quiet of the poor, the dream of those who never had time to dream. And you sleep. At last. Not because the bed is soft, but because the day is over. And so are you.